Nelson Mandela. Learn English through the life of a global icon. Nelson Mandela. One of the most respected leaders of the 20th century. Dedicated his life to fighting for freedom, justice, and equality in South Africa. His story is one of resilience, forgiveness, and unwavering determination. Let's learn English by exploring the remarkable life of Nelson Mandela in detail. Chapter 1. Early life in rural South Africa. Nelson Mandela was born on July 18, 1918, in the small village of Mvizo in the Eastern Cape, province of South Africa. His father, H.L.E Henry Mfakaniiswa, was a chief of the Thembu people, and his mother, Nosekeni Fanny, was a devout Christian. Mandela's given name, Ralilola, means pulling the branch of a tree or, more colloquially, troublemaker. Mandela grew up in Kunu, a nearby village, after his father was stripped of his chieftaincy. Despite the family's loss of status, Mandela's mother ensured that he received a solid education. At the age of 7, he became the first member of his family to attend school, where a teacher gave him the English name Nelson. Mandela's childhood was marked by traditional ceremonies, storytelling, and a strong connection to his heritage. He admired the bravery of his ancestors and dreamed of becoming a leader like them. Vocabulary practice. Heritage, traditions, beliefs, and culture passed down through generations. Example sentence. Mandela valued his heritage and used it as inspiration for his leadership. Devout. Having deep religious feelings or commitment. Example sentence. Mandela's mother was a devout Christian. Chapter 2. Education and Early Activism. Mandela's education journey began at Clarkberry Boarding Institute and continued at Helltown, a Wesleyan secondary school. He later attended the University of Fort Hare, one of the few higher education institutions for black students in South Africa at the time. At Fort Hare, Mandela became involved in student protests and was expelled for participating in a boycott against university policies. This was his first act of defiance against authority. After leaving Fort Hare, Mandela moved to Johannesburg, where he worked as a clerk, and later studied law at the University of Witwatersrand. In Johannesburg, he was introduced to anti-colonial and African nationalist movements, which ignited his passion for activism. Vocabulary word: defiance, open resistance, or bold disobedience. Example sentence: Mandela's defiance against unfair policies marked the beginning of his activism. Chapter 3: Joining the African National Congress, ANC. In 1943, Mandela joined the African National Congress, ANC, a political organization dedicated to ending apartheid. He co-founded the ANC Youth League with Walter Sisulu and Oliver Tambo, focusing on mobilizing young people to fight for equality. Mandela quickly rose to prominence within the ANC due to his leadership, skills and charisma. He advocated for nonviolent resistance and civil disobedience to challenge apartheid laws, which segregated South Africans based on race and deprived black citizens of basic rights. Fun fact: Mandela and his colleagues organized the 1952 Defiance Campaign, one of the largest mass protests against apartheid in South Africa. Chapter 4: The Sharpeville Massacre and a Shift in Strategy. In 1960, the Sharpeville Massacre shocked the world. Police opened fire on peaceful protesters, killing 69 people and injuring many more. This event marked a turning point in Mandela's approach to activism, believing that nonviolent methods were no longer effective. Mandela co-founded Umkhonto we Sizwe, Spear of the Nation, the armed wing of the ANC. He led sabotage operations against government infrastructure, aiming to disrupt the apartheid regime without harming civilians. Vocabulary word: sabotage, deliberate destruction, to disrupt operations. Example sentence: Mandela's group used sabotage to fight against apartheid. Chapter 5: Imprisonment on Robben Island. In 1962, Mandela was arrested and sentenced to 5 years in prison for inciting strikes and leaving the country illegally. In 1964, he was charged with sabotage and sentenced to life imprisonment during the Rivonia trial. Mandela spent 27 years in prison, most of them on Robben Island. Despite harsh conditions, he remained committed to his cause. He secretly wrote letters, educated fellow prisoners, and continued to inspire resistance against apartheid. Fun fact: while in prison, Mandela wrote his autobiography, Long Walk to Freedom. which became an international bestseller after his release. Vocabulary practice. Resistance. The refusal to accept or comply with something. Example sentence. Mandela inspired resistance against apartheid, even from prison. Autobiography. A book about a person's life written by that person. Example sentence. Mandela's autobiography shares his journey from activism to leadership. Chapter 6. Release End. The End of Apartheid. On February 11, 1990, Nelson Mandela was released from prison after 27 years. His release was a result of growing international pressure on South Africa's government and negotiations with President F.W. de Klerk. Mandela and de Klerk worked together to dismantle apartheid and build a new democratic South Africa. In 1993, they were jointly awarded the Nobel Peace Prize for their efforts. Vocabulary word. Dismantle. To take apart or destroy a system or structure. Example sentence. Mandela helped dismantle apartheid through peaceful negotiations. Chapter 7. Presidency and Legacy. In 1994, Mandela became South Africa's first black president after the country's first multiracial elections. His presidency focused on reconciliation, nation building, and addressing social and economic inequalities. Mandela launched programs to improve education, healthcare, and housing for disadvantaged communities. He also promoted the Truth and Reconciliation Commission, which aimed to heal the wounds of apartheid by uncovering the truth about human rights abuses. After serving one term, Mandela stepped down in 1999, emphasizing the importance of democratic leadership and setting an example for future leaders. Fun fact: Mandela was often referred to as Madiba, a term of respect derived from his Xhosa clan name. Chapter 8. A Life of Service. Even after retiring from politics, Mandela continued to advocate for global peace, education, and healthcare. He established the Nelson Mandela Foundation, which supports social justice initiatives worldwide. Mandela passed away on December 5, 2013, at the age of 95. His funeral brought together world leaders and citizens from all backgrounds to honor his extraordinary life. Vocabulary word. Advocate. To publicly support a cause or policy. Example sentence. Mandela was an advocate for peace and justice until the end of his life. Lessons from Nelson Mandela's life. Resilience. Mandela's ability to endure 27 years in prison without losing hope is a powerful example of resilience. Forgiveness. Despite suffering, Mandela chose reconciliation over revenge. Leadership. True leaders inspire unity and work for the greater good. Key vocabulary for English learners. 1. Heritage. 2. Defiance. 3. Sabotage. 4. Resistance. 5. Autobiography. 6. Dismantle. 7. Reconciliation. 8. Advocate. 9. Resilience. 10. Legacy. Practice questions for learners. 1. Where was Nelson Mandela born? 2. What role did Mandela play in the fight against apartheid? 3. How long was Mandela imprisoned? And where? 4. What was the purpose of the Truth and Reconciliation Commission? 5. Why is Mandela considered a global icon of peace?